The butter tea still gets me. 4 months in Panaka and I still can't take it without a pause. That half second where my throat decides. Black tea boiled too long, yak butter, salt. You hold the bowl in both hands because it's warm, and at 5 in the morning the river fog sits so thick in this valley you can barely see the prayer flags across the field. Kinley's wife Sonam showed me the first week. She watched me drink it with the patience of someone watching a child learn something that should be easy. She didn't laugh. She just nodded when I got it down. You know what the green room at Lighthouse Church smelled like at 5 in the morning? Fresh ground lavazza. We had a machine that ground the beans while you watched. We had a green room at a church with leather club chairs and a ring light and a hospitality spread that my chief of staff ordered every week without asking me, because I had never once thought to ask how much it cost. I didn't need to. That's the thing about having 10,000 people who need you to be fed and rested and ready. Someone makes sure you are. 10,200 registered members. That was Lighthouse Church at its peak. 2018, Nashville, Tennessee. I started it in 1995 with 40 people in a rented gymnasium in Antioch. Folding chairs, a borrowed PA system, a pulpit I'd built myself from pine because we couldn't afford the good ones yet. I preached that first Sunday for 39 minutes and 3 people came forward. 3. I wrote it in a ledger. Date, scripture text, number who came forward. I kept that ledger for 28 years. The church grew because I was very good at what I did. I say this without pride and without embarrassment. Just as a fact, the way you'd state that an engineer is good at load calculations. I understood human longing. I understood how to name the precise ache of someone sitting in a pew convinced that God has stopped looking in their direction, and how to offer them, at the right moment, with the right words, the lights at the right level, a door out of that ache. I understood it the way a craftsman understands his tools, precisely, almost mechanically. The Board of Deacons used me as a brand. I understood this about 3 years in, and I continued for 25 more. They made financial decisions without my knowledge. They approved the campus expansion with a construction loan I heard about after the closing. They brought in the Harvest House deal without consulting me, because they knew I'd ask questions and they didn't want the conversation. I was the face. I was very useful as the face. My wife, Lynn, is still in Nashville. We were married 31 years. What I can say honestly, and honesty at this point feels like all I have left, is that she was loyal to the institution of our marriage long after I had stopped being fully present inside it. We were functional. We were gracious at church events. We were the kind of couple that other couples pointed to and said, "That's what it looks like." We hadn't had a real conversation about something that mattered to one of us personally. Not the church, not ministry, not someone else's crisis, since probably 2009. I told myself that was the cost of the work. I think now it was just the cost of how I had learned to live. My daughter Abby is 33. She lives in Portland. She hasn't visited in 2 years. An altar call is the moment in an evangelical service when the pastor invites those who want to accept Jesus to come forward. What most people don't understand is that it is the most technically precise moment of the entire service. The lights drop to 40%. Not dark, but soft enough that a person's peripheral vision narrows, and they feel, without knowing why, slightly more enclosed. The music modulates to E-flat. Specifically E-flat, more sonically warm than D, more intimate than F. The pastor's voice drops below normal conversational level. And then a pause, exactly 3 beats before the invitation. If you feel called tonight. I taught this to junior pastors. I had a document. I called it Pastoral Empathy. I gave 847 altar calls. I wrote everyone in the ledger. I know this number the way I know the date of my ordination. The question I never asked was whether I still believed what I was asking them to do. I don't know when I stopped believing. I don't think there was a single day. I think there were 10,000 days. November 13th, 2022, Sunday, the 11 o'clock service. I was in the green room 7 minutes before I needed to walk through that door and onto the stage. And I was sitting with my Bible open to Matthew 5, the Beatitudes, which I had preached 17 times. And I waited for the thing that had always come. In 28 years, there had been a feeling before every sermon. Not euphoria, not theological certainty, something more physical, a warmth through the chest, a sense of being exactly where you were supposed to be. It came even on the hard Sundays, even when I was exhausted, or when the deacons had blindsided me with something, or when Lynn and I hadn't spoken a real sentence in 4 days. It came. It didn't come. I sat for 7 minutes. Matthew 5:3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Words I had preached from. The room was a room. The chair was a chair. I went out and preached for 47 minutes. The sermon was technically excellent. I know this because I received 14 emails that afternoon saying it was the best of the year. I moved through the material the way a pilot flies in instrument conditions. No visibility, all gauges. I gave the altar call. Lights to 40%, E flat, 3 beats. 22 people came forward. I wrote it in the ledger. Nobody noticed. I stayed 6 more months. March 7th, 2023, at 2:47 in the afternoon, I sent a single email to the Board of Deacons. I need to step aside. I didn't explain. I never gave an interview. I gave no farewell sermon, offered no theological framing. By July, I was on a plane and I haven't been back since. Punakha is not what you picture when you picture exile. There's no ice, no austerity. It's green, intensely, almost aggressively green. The valley floor covered in rice paddy and flamboyant trees that go orange in season, and the faux chew running through the middle of it at a volume that never stops. The river doesn't pause. It doesn't change register. It is indifferent to the hour. I walk to it every morning at 5:30. I don't pray. I want to be precise about this, not as a confession or a rejection, just as the truth. I don't know anymore what prayer is, or whether what I did for 28 years was prayer or something else. A very sophisticated conversation with my own need for certainty. I'm not making that claim confidently. I'm saying I don't know. But I walk to the river. Every morning before the light fully comes in over the eastern ridgeline, 40 minutes. I sit at the bank and I listen to the faux chew. Nothing calls me there. No warmth in the chest. No sense of rightness. I just go. In the Dzong courtyard some mornings, Punakha Dzong, the old fortress monastery, I go at 6:30 before the tourists arrive. The monks are sweeping the courtyard. They don't speak to me and I don't speak to them. I sit on the stone and I watch. It would be easy and wrong to say I found something there. I haven't. What I found is something that doesn't need anything from me. No growth metrics, no capital campaign, no board approval. The monks sweep. The courtyard fills with morning light. Nobody is invited to come forward. In 28 years, every altar call was an invitation I manufactured. I calibrated the lights, the key, the pause. I understood the mechanism well enough to teach it. And people came forward and lives changed, and I don't know what to do with that knowledge. I don't know if the mechanism was the manipulation of something real or the manipulation of something that was never there. I've been sitting with that question on the bank of the Fo Chu for 4 months, and I don't have an answer. The Omega Sea Master is on the shelf, present from the congregation at my ordination in 1995, same year I started the ledger. The battery's been dead since last August. I haven't replaced it. I haven't thrown it away either. These things you carry without knowing why. The butter tea gets easier. Every morning it gets slightly more like something I chose, and slightly less like something I'm enduring. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure it means anything. The river is still doing what it does, and the sound fills the space where the feeling used to be. And some mornings that's enough, and some mornings it isn't. And this morning I couldn't tell you which kind it was.